just, we will begin the meeting then. And apparently we're short a few here, so we'll go with what we have.
That better make the minutes. It's a good reminder, actually.
Brent, would you offer an opening prayer?
Absolutely. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so very grateful unto Thee for the opportunity that we all have to serve our great community. We, Father in heaven, are grateful for all of the wonderful citizens that live in Kaysville. And we pray that Thou will guide us tonight as we review and discuss important matters related to the power utility here, and that provides such important and essential services for our community. Pray that Thou will help us to be insightful and be able to support them as necessary and support our city and our fellow citizens. And we pray for Thy guidance and blessings to be upon this community. Bless us all to be able to be wise, to be kind, and to be able to be examples to the world. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I will read the mission statement. Kaysville City Power and Light's mission is to safely provide reliable electricity and superior customer service at a competitive price to the residents and businesses in Kaysville City. Then we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Has anybody seen anything they need changed or added to the minutes?
I think they looked correct, both for the visits to the facilities as well as the meeting that we had previously in February. So
You
good to
okay
me.
with it?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting held on February 1st, as well as the meeting that was held on March 18th to visit the facilities.
And
A
I'll
second.
second the motion for
Thank
February
you.
1st and March 18th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nobody left to oppose, so we'll move on. Next item is the substation transformers for Burton and Schick Lane.
Yeah, if I might be able to first, we have a certificate of appreciation for Krista Keach for her time and her service here with the Power Commission and for all that she did to contribute, and want to wish her luck with the Planning Commission and tell her thanks. The mayor is currently in Korea, so if you want her signature on this, you're going to have to chase her down. So, anyways, we typically also give you your name tag, but since you'll be staying on a commission, we'll probably just hold on to it and let them take over it.
Save some taxpayer money there. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And we also appreciate your service and contribution. We will miss you.
I'll still be here, so.
Well, yeah.
But not, yeah.
You're welcome to come.
I don't know if there'll be a seat available. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So it has been really treasured, and I view it as sacred duty and responsibility to be able to give back to our community. And just like you said in the opening prayer today, that it really is, it's an honor to be able to give back to those that we live around, and hopefully we do that judiciously and with discernment. And thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to bring you up to speed on our thoughts with the Burton and Schick substation. We have been working with ECI, the engineering firm, to get the proper specs, both drawn up for the bus work for another bay in the Schick substation. They also drew up the specs and put it out for bid for a transformer. We We're hoping to hear back on those bids, but they've been pushed. There's several companies that are telling us that they're not even getting bids out unless we are letting them have 8 to 12 weeks to respond. So right now, July 22nd is our deadline. When we were hoping to have already heard, we don't even have a deadline until July 22nd to hear back. With that being said, they also told us that for the more competitive and higher grade transformers, we're looking at 36 to 42 months before they'll get here. With that being said, I went ahead and asked them to spec out the transformer for the Burton sub and asked that they also include that in their proposal. So we will be getting a proposal for 2 substation transformers. One of the questions I have to you guys is we will need to take it to council to approve that we move forward with 2 when the immediate need is only 1. But by the time they arrive, we will have already begun the immediate need for the second.
Right. Is that just due to the change based on the plan that had been submitted for your facility upgrades?
Correct.
Okay, yep.
So the thought is that we would have all of the bus work and everything completely ready and check by the time the transformers arrive, where we would then be able to immediately put the Schick substation transformer into service and then begin the work or finish the work, hopefully at that point, the bus work and the Burton sub, and we would be able to we would have that one in storage and be able to put it into service as soon as we're ready in 3 to 4 years. So that's kind of the process there. Once we get those proposals back, we'll be sure to send it out for your guys' review, and we'll be able to discuss what we feel would be the best route to go. But with the purchase of a second transformer, we would need council's approval, because that would super exceed what I have put into the budget.
In your plan, yeah. Yep.
For the purchasing of just one.
And who all are you having bid on those?
ABB, Schweitz, no, it starts with an S. I can't think of their name. Man. I need my substation tech here. It's not Schweitzer, it's...
That's the SCADA.
Yeah, that's the SCADA. We'll talk about that.
That's coming up, yeah.
That's for the control panels. It'll probably come to me in a minute.
How many different bids are you expecting?
I'm hoping for 4.
Okay.
There's also a company that we've been told makes very competitive transformers out of South Korea. I think they're called a Virginia, I think, or something like that.
Virginia's in the U.S.
Is it?
Yeah.
So, well, that's one that we're looking at, as a Virginia.
Okay.
ABB. Oh man, it's gonna drive me crazy because it's the one that Greg wants the most. Anyways, and then there's a company out of South Korea that we're looking at as well. And the entertaining thing about that is we have talked to a couple other companies that have gone with them, and they said that their transformers are very good, reliable, and competitive. So that one I'm a little bit nervous about. Depending on what the quotes come back at, I'd have to dig more into making sure we're making the right move. But they're telling us their lead time is about 18 months. And that's appealing as well, as long as we feel like we're getting the appropriate product for the price and for what we're looking for. Just to give you a quick rundown or understanding, there are lower grade transformers out there that we can get for our substations that will come in a lot less time and probably even a lot less money. But they're also a lot more likely not to have the longevity, and they're also a lot louder. They hum. The electricity going through them hums really loud. We have one, if you're curious, we have one behind Taco Bell in that substation there. If you ever go in that parking lot, you can hear it. It's really loud. And so that's another thing we're trying to steer away from, as I'm sure whoever's living in proximity
Particularly
to the
with SHIC.
substation, yes,
Yeah.
particularly with SHIC. So,
Yeah.
and you know, you want to get something that you know is going to last
Yeah.
50 years, not something that's going to last 25 or
Right.
20. So, and you know, you have a lot more confidence in its reliability. So,
Mhm.
they're just made a lot better. So, but that's kind of where we're at right now on the Burton and Schick substation. And I think that's all I have for that agenda item.
So Brian, one quick question on that, because I know we talked about it during the visit, you know, the facilities, which was awesome, by the way. I mean, I think it was really, really helpful. You know, particularly kind of visualizing exactly what you were needing, what you were all planning for, based upon kind of where we're at, what we're seeing, you know, and, you know, granted, it's the early part of June. We've got, you know, peak timeframes coming up here. How are we feeling about the load that the substations are able to carry as we go throughout this summer and as we're
Right.
projecting until, it's like you're saying, that's a long-term proposal, right, to be able to get those in place. How are we feeling about that?
This year, we're feeling pretty good. We've also looked into, and I wasn't necessarily going to discuss this too much tonight. We've looked into all alternative options, potentially, of things we can do to help us with that 3-year gap.
Yeah.
But we're kind of waiting to start trying to go down those options until we hear back
Gotta see the bids,
on the
yeah.
proposals.
Yeah.
But this year we feel pretty good. Last year, so 2 years ago, we were hitting really high numbers in the Schick and Burton sub. Last year we were able to reconfigure. Brett Thomas did a really good job of rerouting and reconfiguring ways that we can switch around the load within our city. And we're able to distribute it a lot more evenly. The problem with that we don't really care for is that at that point we're now pushing a lot more transformers closer to 100%.
Yeah, close to the capacity.
But what we're not doing is we're not pushing one at 140, 150%. So it's kind of the game we have to play. But last year we were able to make it so that we never exceeded the capacity of the Schick substation transformer.
Okay, good.
So which was really promising. We do have more load this year with a year's growth.
Yep.
And so we will need to play around with load and switching and manipulating where different transformers and substations are feeding within the city.
Sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you for that report. An update on it. It's, deliveries have just gotten crazy in the last year or two. It's
Yeah, it's been a while.
a 12-month delivery would have been a long delivery for a transformer 5 years ago.
5 years ago, yeah. Yeah.
Would have been like unacceptable, where now you're like, deal,
Yeah.
sign up. Yeah, it makes sense, and thanks for your foresight and just recognizing that looking to the future, even if we have to change things and go to council and so forth, instead of just being reactive about it. Takes courage, you know, to look ahead and around the corner. And we don't know what the lead time will be. And I like your observation too about just out of the country, like, if it's, all that glitters isn't gold, you know, just to like vet them, if it does come in like remarkably low, to do your research. So it sounds like a good plan too.
And one thing the ECI has probably talked to you about is you can put it's a bump monitor or something, I can't remember exactly the term on it, that has GPS location and everything that will track the transformer so you can see where it's at. And if
Prior to
if
delivery?
it gets,
Like
yeah.
in shipping?
Yeah.
Oh,
Whether it's on a truck or, and I don't know how well that would work. I don't know how they ship them on boats. But if it's on the back of a truck, then you have these, I forget the term for it, but But you can track the progress as
That's
they're
neat.
coming, and,
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
yeah, ECI would know. If you ask them about it, they'll
Yeah,
know what
I'll
you're talking about, because
definitely
they've
talk to
spec'd them for us.
And the Amazon delivery guy just shows up at your doorstep with a transformer, right?
Then you can
That's right.
see how long it sits out off the coast, try and get
Yeah,
it.
in the
Yeah.
port.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Can't remember what the term is for it, but they'll know. If the guys at ECI will know.
Okay.
That's-
Yeah, I'll have to ask.
So should we move on to the SCADA?
Yeah. We sent out, I don't know, I guess an information packet to kind of what we were looking for a SCADA system. We had 3 responses. One ended out not really presenting a whole lot. And then we looked at Surveillant and Eaton were the other 2 companies that came and showed us proposals. Eaton was a good company, but they do not have the experience in the SCADA world. The prices were a little bit comparable. Surveillant was a little bit more pricey, but not by a significant amount. But Surveillant has a lot more history, a lot more knowledge and experience in the SCADA world. We also liked the form or way in which their communication would occur. And they also are set up and designed for future beyond SCADA. So an outage management system, having equipment, switches, different types of things that we would be able to control out on our lines. They also have reclosers, then things that we could put out on our lines that would be compatible with what they would have to offer, where Eaton wasn't quite there. So we felt like for the little bit more money that we were looking at for Surveillant, that it was worth our time for future reasons and the compatibility of what we would want to go with Surveillant. So we are in the very, very, very preliminary beginning stages of talking with them of what this would entail to move forward. So we haven't moved forward with it yet, but that is in this year's budget to start the SCADA
So
system.
in the upcoming budget?
Yes.
Okay.
That we're hoping will be approved next week. So
Okay.
yep, that is in there, and what we budgeted for is adequate for what they quoted us, and so we're pretty excited about starting to implement a SCADA system. It'll be a few years before it's fully up and running.
Yeah,
as you're aware,
it's a fair amount of work.
It takes a lot of time.
We updated our system to Surveillant back in, I think, '08. It's a fair amount of work to get it.
Have you been pleased with Surveillant? I guess I didn't.
Yeah.
Greg probably knew that, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Know that. Good.
Yeah, it's worked really well. I think the company's gotten quite a bit bigger, and it's a little harder to get.
Service.
Yeah, they're getting,
Yeah.
but they know what they're doing. I mean, they have a lot of systems out there, so.
Right. I was really, really, really pleased with what they demonstrated to us they had the ability to do.
Yeah.
I was excited for it, so.
But it is a bit of work to get everything up and running. Once you do, it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so the intent there, just so you all are aware, the intent there is first we would get our SCADA up and running. We're going to start with the Schick substation, where that's where we have our most concerns with the loads and things of that nature. And then we will work from there and take one substation at a time. Once our SCADA is up and fully functional and moving, we will then begin the stages after all of that is complete, starting to look into the benefit of having controllable switches out on our system through the SCADA system, and then also starting to implement our outage management system, which would allow us to really be able to see what's going on and where in the city.
Yep.
So
That sounds really comprehensive, and that sounds wise too. And I assume Surveillant, really quickly, Brian, I assume that they will, you know, obviously they're the provider, but will they help you set up, configure, provide the necessary training so that staff is able to
Yes.
maintain and direct, and they provide ongoing support where necessary?
yes,
So that as well.
they will come in, especially with the first substation. With the first substation, they'll be very hands-on,
Yeah.
demonstrating, showing, teaching, helping us. And then the next substation, we will probably try and do as much as we can on our own so
Yeah.
that we fully
What you
understand.
trained. Yeah.
But they'll be there to assist if needed.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for that update. Let's move on to the budget, the 2022 budget, it looks like. So that's a budget we're just about to the end of.
Yeah. So that's kind of a broad topic.
Topic, yeah.
Very broad.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, okay. But I wasn't for sure how to categorize everything underneath that. And so I just thought this would be a good opportunity for me to be able to discuss with you and get any feedback of projects that you would like to see, or if you've heard citizens talk about that they would like to see completed, or that they feel are trouble areas that we can begin to work on with our budget. There are some specific areas that we did budget for, but there's also an excess that we budgeted for so that we can address other general items like the direct berry at Laurelwood.
Yep.
That type
We
of
talked
thing.
about that, yeah.
Yeah, so the things that we are going to try and concentrate a little bit more on this year, we have one of the issues that we have with switching our load around between substations right now is that we only have a wire size of 4/0, that at the end of Burton Lane, it goes underground and up to Sunset there, and that 4/0 is significantly underrated for the amount of draw if we switch the power around so that it's being pulled different directions through that area. So we're limited to what we're able to do, and it's already underrated for what it's seeing on a normal, regular basis. So we budgeted to bore in a 6-inch line and begin to look into the stages of upgrading that wire, so that we don't have that potential burn up that would really put us in a sticky situation. King Clarion this year is going to be one of our focuses as well.
That was one that I was going to bring up.
We've got a lot of frustrated individuals up there over the years. My frustration right now is of course, I take the power in Kaysville very personal because I consider this system to be my system.
Yeah.
I've put a lot of sweat and a lot of equity and a lot of time of my own life into this system, and I take a lot of pride in our work. And so when I hear that people are disgruntled, I want to know more. I want to know, are you disgruntled because of what was, or are you disgruntled because of what is now? Because really, the last few outages we've had were not even our outages. They were Rocky Mountain Power's.
Power bumps, yep.
But yet
yeah,
we
we'll say.
get the finger, which I'm okay with,
Yeah.
because that's just people being uneducated and not knowing, and I'm all right with that. But there are some concerns at King Clarion that I do think we can address and that we can make better, that will mitigate some problems. and we are going to start working on the rebuild of King Clarion this year. With that being said, a lot of goalies are up there. We have seriously looked into a couple different options of setting poles in those goalies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one where I was going to ask Alan if he had heard of either of these options taking place in his career, or if Bountiful has even done it. But the thought is that we would take one section in the goalie at a time. We would dig however many holes we need to. We would stage all the power poles up there, and then we would then either hire a company that has a helicopter that would set all those poles all at once for us. Or I was also told, and I haven't been able to make contact with them yet, but Wagstaff owns a crane company where they can set poles for you. Rocky Mountain Power is the one that told me about them, and they said Rocky Mountain Power said they use them all the time.
They do use them all the time.
So that was one that I'm really interested in, and they said that they can set a pole up to 400 feet away with their crane, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. I think that's about right.
So I feel like that would probably be a lot more cost efficient
Than the helicopter,
and be able to get our poles set in those goalies where we're not trying to carry them by hand down in there. So that'll be a
So this
process.
is just behind the homes?
Yeah.
We're rebuilding the line behind the homes?
Yeah, and which wouldn't be as big of a deal if it wasn't behind the home and down
Down the hill.
down a steep decline down into a goalie. So that's where we're having some of the
So there's existing distribution infrastructure down there, okay.
yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Yep.
Yeah. And we would currently there's a mixture of 35-foot and 40-foot poles down there. We will raise all of those to a 45-foot pole, and we will put 10-foot cross arms on all of them.
Are these
which
goalies ones
will-
over here? Or what are you
What's that?
talking about?
It's up in
King
Crestwood.
Clarion up top of Crestwood.
Oh, okay, okay, yep.
All that area up there. So with that being said, I caught wind this last week that several of our council members have been getting questioned by residents in that area of how come we can't put overhead underground.
Underground, yeah.
Again, I look at that with the interpretation of that's just someone that doesn't understand what's entailed to be able to
Very
do that.
expensive.
And then the push is that it would come out of the general budget. It's something that all of the Kaysville City residents would need to.
Yeah, all ratepayers would be
Fund.
impacted by it.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the past, if you had overhead lines and you wanted them to be underground, well, that's fine, but you pay for it, not the city.
Yeah, on the line
all the
extensions
rest of the
into new
residents.
communities, right? Yep.
And so, more than anything, I just wanted to give you as a power commission a heads up that's I think that's potentially a question that's going to be coming down the pipe, and very easily you may be asked by a member of council or the
Yeah.
residents, how come we aren't doing that? I had an email where I had a conversation with a gentleman that was really frustrated about the car that drove through a pole.
Yeah.
I says, well, he says, well, that wouldn't have happened if it was underground. And I says, well, it's funny you say that, because yesterday we had a sectionalizer that was underground get run over by a side-by-side that took out quite a bit of the west side. And the poor west side's been hammered this year. And then we had a 15-year-old kid in a car, plow through a pad mount transformer and take out a very large section of the west side.
Oh dear.
And so,
They're good points that you.
happens.
Yeah,
So-
they're good points that you raise, and I mean, it's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Between reliable and cost-effective for the entire ratepayer base, because you can't segment, right? I mean,
Right.
whatever the improvements are in any section of the service territory is gonna impact everybody. And so I definitely, I understand the point there, I agree with it. And I think the challenges are multiple. I mean, obviously, it's much more expensive. I think it probably you know, for the benefit of us as commissioners, right? If we're presented with it, and even for the benefit of council, I think an understanding of what that kind of ballpark cost difference is would help, right? In that discussion with, because we can say it's more expensive and we can kind of generalize and explain that, but by and large, I think, you know, unless you're a ratepayer and you can't ballpark that down into what's that actually gonna mean for ratepayers in general, to do that big of a section of the service territory and put it underground. The other part of it is reliability. I mean, you gotta be able to maintain it too, right?
Yep.
And so what that would mean for staff and equipment that you would need to upgrade to be able to maintain that much underground, right? That's going into that.
It'd be a huge undertaking.
Well, I'm assuming this is a three-phase line if you're
Yes.
doing 10-foot arms on it.
Yes.
Is it just age that it's having failures now, or what's
Yeah.
driving the rebuild?
Yeah, so we did the pull testing.
Okay,
Some of it is because there's primary on 35-foot poles, and we're wanting to get it up out of there
yeah,
higher. Some of it is because a lot of the poles down in the gully, either, back when they were tested 5-6 years ago, were under advisement or failed.
Wow.
We do have some poles up in that area that are still in the ground that failed the test. But we did go up and inspect them and felt that they were stable enough we could leave them until we could rebuild the whole section. The ones that we felt failed bad enough that they needed to be addressed immediately, we have already gone up and changed out different sections and areas. Other areas, we found just this last winter, we found a slack span that was back down in a gully. We were having a hard time figuring out what was causing the bumps. And when the wind was blowing, so we were looking for trees, tree branches that were hitting or something. And we happened to be in the middle of the night. We happened to be in the right place and see the flash. So when we went back and inspected those lines, there was pop marks on the wire all up and down that span. So we put spacers in them, just insulated
To keep the
spacers.
phases, yeah.
And since then, we haven't had a single issue in that area.
Is vegetation management at all an issue up there, and are we, I mean,
It
I would
is.
imagine it is, right, but.
Yep, it is. It's big. And that's another thing that we're in the middle of doing. I'm working on a RFB right now for tree trimming.
Is that part of each, for each budget year is, I mean, I'm assuming that's part of every request that we put forward, right? For vegetation management.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a section in the budget every year that's just for tree trimming, but we are not necessarily going away from Asplund, but we're putting it back out for bid, and we're going to bid it in a different format, hoping that we get more productivity. I also looked into potentially getting our own tree crew, but with the really high demands of inflation and what it would take for us to get the equipment and the manpower and the ability to have our own, we're 3 years out just for a truck, just for the chassis of a truck.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's something that I've decided that with the money and the cost, it's best just to put it back out for bid to a third party for the time being, and maybe readdress potentially our own crew 5-6 years from now. So, yeah.
The crew that did that in Bountiful, you might know them. I don't know if they had any experience, but they were sure quick. They just come in your yard and just show up and just go to town.
Yep.
And just, there might not be peaches for quite some time, but
Yeah.
they did the job.
So the proposed way, and I would love any feedback that anyone may have on this, because we are still in the beginning stages of getting this out for a new proposal. But one of the issues that we're running into is the current tree crew or company that we're going with. They are basically just paid by a hourly rate for the time spent here, and we don't feel that they've got complacent, and we don't feel that they're being very
Productive.
efficient and
Efficient,
productive for their hour.
Is
And
there a
so-
way, is there a way potentially as part of the planning process on a yearly cycle to have portions of the service territory, right? That
Yeah.
you say this is, the plan this year is to cover, I don't know, if we, I doubt that we're covering the entire service territory every year from a vegetation management perspective, but maybe
Yeah.
we are.
We're covering most of the city,
Okay.
not quite on a yearly basis, but the benefit of doing it this way right now is we have access to pull them or tell them to go any which way
That you
within
need
the city that
on
we
an hourly
need.
rate, yeah,
Correct.
that's
Versus
right.
like the bid for the job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what I've talked to, and I'm not sure how Bountiful does it, I talked to Jess a little while back about your guys' tree stuff, but I chatted with Lehigh, and I really liked what they did. And so that's kind of my thought process and direction right now, is they break the